Hey guys, welcome to yet another live unboxing at Gadgets 360, and today we'll be getting a first look at Asus's brand new budget smartphones. So the company just announced these phones at an event, and we actually have them right here for you. So this is the ZenFone Max M1,
and this is the ZenFone Lite L1.
Okay, so we have two budget offerings, both under 10,000 rupees. We'll get into the exact pricing and the specifications in just a bit. But before that, I'm Royden. I have Aditya, our Android expert, with me to guide you through any of the queries you may have. So if you have any questions about these phones, feel free to drop it in the comments, and we'll try our best to get them answered.
Yeah.
Okay, so Aditya, what do you want to do? You want to
two
maybe
new
the pricing,
phones.
the exact pricing of both of them first?
So I think a lot of people will be curious कि यार पहला pricing, pricing is what they want. So this is the Max M1. This is priced at 8,999 rupees.
Yep.
And this is the ZenFone Lite L1. It is priced at 6,999 rupees. Okay. And we're going to start talking about these two devices. So in terms of hardware, there are quite a lot of similarities. So both of them have a 5.45-inch display at the front with an 18:9 aspect ratio and HD plus resolution.
Right. Micro
USB ports at the bottom, 13 megapixel cameras at the back, and both of them are powered by the Snapdragon 430 octa-core processor. That's where the similarity ends on these two phones. So let's talk about what is different. So the Max M1, like the name suggests, Max, Asus has always been using the Max moniker for big battery smartphones, and this is not any different. So this has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. It also has an 8 megapixel selfie camera, and it is capable of reverse charging. So in case you are running short on charge on your other smartphone, you can use this phone as a power bank to charge the other. So that was about the
one
M1.
Of the highlights of that. Yeah.
Now about the Lite L1, well, it is lighter. This has a 3,000 milliamp hour battery and a 5 megapixel selfie camera. Also, this misses out on a fingerprint scanner that the Max M1 has. The Lite L1 does not have a fingerprint scanner, but both have face recognition, so you can scan your face and unlock it.
Right. But I think what I really liked about the Lite one is that at that price, you're getting a pretty good set of specifications. I mean, like 2 GB RAM, leaving aside the RAM, you're getting an octa-core SoC, which is not easy to find. Like most companies, we've seen at least have. When you drop below the 7,000 rupee price bracket,
most of them
you typically get a quad core, or even like if not Qualcomm, you typically get like MediaTek or even Spectrum as you go lower. So it's really nice to see Asus, giving you still an octa-core, because we've tested, Android Oreo on quad cores, and the experience is just not very good. It's just not very pleasant.
So that's another difference that I missed out on. So the Lite L1 has 2 GB of RAM and 16 GB of internal storage. You have a dedicated micro SD card slot on both, so you can expand storage further. But and this thing, the Max M1 has 3 GB of RAM and 32 GB of internal storage. Okay. So that is what is interesting about this phone.
Right. So so anything else? So apart from the displays, I think from what we can see so far, they have pretty decent displays. This is the Max that I have, and this is a 5.45-inch HD plus, which looks pretty nice actually. It's not, the colors are pretty nice, and we'll still have to test it how it is, how it fares in direct sunlight and everything, but we'll maybe get to that when we're doing the full review on that.
Everyone watching this, now is the time for your questions. You can go ahead and ask us any question you have about the Max M1 and the Lite L1. So these are two new phones from Asus. They are launched at 8,999 and 6,999 respectively. There's also a Flipkart discount, like it will go on a discounted price for the festive season is what Asus is saying.
Yeah, I think Flipkart is going to have their Dhamaka sale or something coming up soon. And during that time, both these phones will be available at a discounted price.
So the Max M1, which is priced at 9,000 rupees currently, that will be offered at a price of 7,499 rupees. Whereas the Lite L1, which is currently at 6,999 rupees, will be available for 5,999 only during the Diwali Dhamaka sale.
Right. So maybe let's talk about the competition for maybe we'll start with the Lite one, because I think the product manager from Asus made it very, he was very clear at what these phones are targeted at, like what is the competition. So
So for the Lite L1, the competition is going to be the Redmi 6A, which Xiaomi has launched.
That is another recent phone from them.
Yes, and you have a few similarities as well, because the 6A does not have a fingerprint scanner. The L1 does not have a fingerprint scanner. But what is different is that the Redmi 6A is powered by a Helio A22 processor, which is a quad-core processor. And this is a little more powerful in terms of that. So you get a Snapdragon 430. It's an octa-core processor, and we have seen this processor powering phones like the Moto G5, G5s,
G5s and all those phones have been priced a lot higher, like closer to 10,000. So it's nice to see this SoC coming in a phone that costs this less. Which is really
I think it's actually a nice move, because you've generally seen a lot of older processors just being discontinued, whereas you can still put them in budget smartphones to kind of make them a little more powerful.
Yeah,
that is an interesting bit.
True. Okay, so we've got some questions coming in. Abhishek is asking, I saw the Far Cry 5 stickers. Okay. As for the phone, which Android will it get at launch, and is there any special UI on the phone design? So basically he's asking which version of Android, and is there any custom UI basically that Asus is using?
Abhishek has that question. So Abhishek, this runs on Android Oreo, and it has Asus custom UI on it. It's ZenFone Zen UI 5.
Yeah.
So you do get custom UI on it. So it's not pure stock
Zen
Android.
UI and Android Oreo, I guess.
Yeah. And you do have a bit of apps pre-installed. So it does Android 8.0 Oreo. Okay. It is running the September security patch.
Okay. Okay, we have another question coming in about gaming support. Can both support PUBG? Of course, a highly popular game in India right now.
Asking about PUBG support, the Snapdragon 430 is capable of playing PUBG.
Maybe on low settings, but I'm pretty sure
it is capable of playing it. But I have a few doubts about the L1, because it only has like 2 GB of RAM. We need to download that. I'll see if it is available for download. But the Max M1 is capable of doing it. So yeah, I think PUBG support will be available for the phones.
Yeah, but I think what it'll be interesting to see is how PUBG runs on the 2 GB version of the phone.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
the Lite version.
I think in the lowest setting you will be able to run PUBG. That's aside, if you have a strong network connection, I think it would be playable.
Okay.
Shouldn't be an issue.
Shouldn't be an issue. Cool. We will definitely be testing that out, so stay tuned for the full review when we get to that. Deepak is asking, I thought the successor for the Max Pro M1, but Asus is bringing budget segment with the Snapdragon 430.
Deepak, this is not the successor of the Max Pro M1. This is the Max M1. So you can think of it as a little sibling of the Max Pro M1. Like when Asus uses the Pro badging, it primarily means that it's using a powerful processor. Without it, I think this only has a big battery. The 430 is an older processor, but I think it's still powerful. It's not a weak processor. There's no update or no successor of the Max Pro M1 yet, but as and when Asus plans to launch it, I think you'll hear about it first on GAS 360.
Yeah, so I think what Asus is trying to do right now is they are very smartly plugging in or targeting segments of the market which are sort of trending or popular, or which is showing a lot of interest. So we first saw the Max Pro M1, which took obviously counter Xiaomi's very strong Redmi Note series, which they took on that, and then of course they went after OnePlus 6 with the the ZenFone.
So they went down after which phone were you talking about?
The OnePlus 6.
OnePlus 6. So Asus went with the ZenFone 5Z.
5Z, I was just drawing a blank over there. But yeah, so now basically they are taking on Xiaomi's and even Realme's new competition, which is basically the sub 10,000 rupee segment. So these phones will fill in those gaps.
Yeah, because I was actually looking at the question about PUBG. So it is available for the Max M1, and I'm currently downloading it. And considering this phone has 32 GB of internal storage, I think that should be possible. The L1
the Lite might have an issue, right? There's 16 gigs of internal storage and 2 GB of RAM. So,
but processor-wise, both are similar. So I think both should be able to play that.
Yeah.
So
true. Okay. Sunil is asking, will this get an upgrade to Android Pie?
Well, Sunil, that's really hard to say at this point.
Because I guess that's something we just have to wait and see what Asus's software update cycle is like.
Since these devices are not a part of Android One, there's no guarantee if it will be updated to the latest version of Android.
Right.
So as of now, you get Android 8.0 Oreo. Will it get an update to 8.1 Oreo? Will it get an update to 9 Pi? Well, I think only Asus can answer that question at the moment.
Yep. Okay. Pradeep is asking, the L1 is launched in Indonesia in August. Why are they selling old phones?
Okay, so L1 is launched. I think it's 2 months away.
I mean, August wasn't really too far away.
Too far
right?
away, yeah.
I mean,
so 2 months back they launched it in Indonesia. I have no clue why they're launching it now. Probably the pricing. They might be working on the pricing of the two phones.
yeah.
Because around August, that is when Xiaomi launched the Redmi 6A and the Redmi 6, basically the 6 series in India.
Yeah.
And that is probably why they've delayed this launch.
Yeah. Okay. Pradeep is once
Pradeep
again.
Kumar Mishra. He's
Pradeep
asking
Kumar
us
Mishra
which
asking-
one to buy for normal daily use.
Yeah.
So Pradeep, I would between the two, I think the Max M1 is the better one, primarily because it has more RAM, more internal storage, and it also has a fingerprint scanner at the back. So in case you're using it for multitasking or whatever, the Max M1 will be able to handle it probably better than the Lite L1.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah. Abdullah is asking Snapdragon 430 versus the 450, which is on the Realme C1.
So Abdullah, the Realme C1 is powered by the Snapdragon 450, and this is the 430. The 450 is slightly better from this. If I'm not wrong, the 450 might also be an octa-core processor.
It is.
Yeah. So comparatively, I think the 450 will be better compared to the 430.
But I mean, yeah, in terms of numbers, sure. But I think in real world, there might not be that much of a difference because I mean, I'm testing the Realme C1 at the moment, and we were playing a bit of PUBG yesterday, and even on the lowest graphics settings, it was still a little stuttery and not very smooth, especially when panning around. So, yeah.
So that was the reason you were getting killed frequently.
I mean, I did make it in one round till the end.
Okay. So we've got a question from Rohit. Rohit is asking 2 GB RAM or 3 GB RAM. So Rohit, on the L1 you only get 2 GB of RAM, and on the Max M1 you only get 3 GB of RAM. So I think you'll have to select the phone based on what.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're asking which one to go for, definitely more RAM is definitely better. Since this is Android and you have a custom skin and all that other heavy stuff on it. So 3GB RAM is definitely going to get you better performance. But who knows, like a few months down the line, depending on how these phones are being received in the market, we could see higher RAM versions of them also be launched.
And if in case you want more performance, the Asus ZenFone Max Pro M1 is also in the same price range. You'll have to spend a little extra, probably 1,000 rupees extra over the Max M1 to go for the Max Pro M1. So I think that's a good deal if you are looking for performance. That is.
Okay. One final question. Kshitij is asking, good or not, do you think that Asus phones are quite underrated in the Indian market, as we have seen in the case of the OnePlus and 5Z?
So Kshitij, interesting question there. I would say that currently Asus phones are a little underrated, because earlier Asus had a strategy wherein they would launch pretty much every smartphone that they had in their international lineup. So at one point we were bombarded with multiple ZenFones. So you had the ZenFone 2, the ZenFone 4,
which was
ZenFone 5.
incredibly confusing to keep up with.
And even the naming strategy was a little confusing. You have got the ZenFone Deluxe, you've got the Max, you've got the Live, the Go. So multiple phones there. It's very hard to keep track. What Asus has recently done is they've targeted market, like Royden said. They have targeted particular smartphones and then have brought in similar ones at aggressive pricing. So the 5Z was one example. Even the Max Pro M1 is the other example of phones with good hardware and well priced. So I think Asus has now picked up pace, and looking at what it's doing in the market currently, I would say that they are the underdog.
Yeah, so I think that's all we have time for right now. If you have any more questions, do feel free to put them in. This was a quick first look at Asus's brand new phones, the ZenFone Max M1 and the Lite L1. We will be bringing you the full review very soon, so stay tuned for that on Gadgets 360, and thanks for tuning in, all those who did.